Hey, welcome to another episode of How I Met My Beer. Today, I'm excited to meet Narayan Manepalli, founder and CEO of Geist Breweries, along with an incredibly talented guest, Swapna Deepak, co-founder of Tripsters. Please do not forget to like, share, comment and subscribe.
Good morning, Swapna here. I professionally work for a leading publication house. I head their business for events, activations and stuff for Karnataka. I am very passionate about travel and I'm a very adventurous person. Um, because of that, I have got into, I basically created a club of girls. It's called Tripsters. A bunch of crazy ladies, it's a women only thingy wherein we do a lot of travel. So it could be just drives where we just take the car and head on wherever, in the morning we just go unplanned, and we also do planned tours. We do overnight. We've done Bhutan by road, a bunch of 10 girls. The best part of this is we are into car rallies. I organize car rallies for women. I used to participate earlier, but now I also organize car rallies because I really believe that somebody has to provide that platform, where women can come out of their daily monotonous life and have a life of their own. Right? That's about me.
I am Narayan Manepalli. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Geist. This is South India's first distribution craft brewery, and our whole and sole purpose is to make sure that we provide the best beers that we can possibly make in craft to India. That's our mission, and I think as we build our business, we want to make sure that we create deep-rooted connections with our customers, so they keep coming back to us and drinking our beers. This is the Witty Wit. Okay. One thing about drinking a craft beer is you have to drink with all your senses, right? Correct. And I keep telling people that drinking your first craft beer should be like meeting your first girlfriend.
Ouch.
Apologies to our spouses, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's not the same. But so it has to be memorable. You have to when you drink a beer. And some of the best beers that I've drunk in my life, I actually remember the moment of where I was, exactly how I tried it, and the feeling and how it made me feel. It was brilliant. So the first thing you do when you look at it, you first look at the beer, right? You say, okay, so there's a mild haze, there's a nice head of foam on the top, and then you smell it. And then you should smell in this particular beer, you should smell citrus, like orange, citrus, etc. Right? And then we also have a little bit of coriander that we add in here,
Okay.
and so you should be able to taste the coriander. So the next thing you do is you taste the beer. You'll get that mild coriander backbone. You get this smell. So this, by the way, this beer was developed. The first ever beer was developed by a brewer called Peter Chellis, who actually used orange peel and coriander for the first time. And the legendary beer in this category is Hoegaarden.
Yeah.
So Hoegaarden defined the style of a Belgian wit beer, but Peter Chellis was the brewer that made this beer.
Okay.
It's a great beer for a hot summer's day.
Yeah.
It's very sessionable. You can just keep drinking.
You can just keep drinking it.
I can just feel it smoothly entering in. just just loving it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the most important part. Actually.
Yeah.
Loving the beer.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. It's about how it makes you feel. It should make you feel good, make you feel happy, and hopefully you'll remember this moment and say.
Definitely.
And by the way, in every beer that you make, so a lot of people ask me a question and say, what's really important? What's the most important ingredient in beer making? And the truth is all of it, because at some point in time, you're going to showcase some aspect of that raw material. So in this case, it's clearly a case of showcasing the adjuncts. So the orange peel that you have, the coriander, the taste that you get in your tongue. It's about showcasing these adjuncts. These are the little extras that you add beyond your 4 standard raw materials.
Right.
And every beer that you will now try, you will see that there's some part of the beer that we've tried to highlight. So for example, in an IPA, you will get, it's all about the hops. And I'll talk to you more about it when we drink it. But this is about showcasing the adjuncts. And so this orange peel comes all the way from Curacao, so back in the West Indies.
Okay.
And in India, by the way, this is the beauty of our country, is there are it's such an amazing wealth of raw materials. I discovered that there are hundreds and hundreds of varieties of coriander. So what kind of coriander do you add to this beer? From citrusy to resiny to oily to non-oily, etc. So we get our coriander from one small farm in Gujarat that we believe is going to give us the best taste.
Okay.
And if you have too much of oil, oils impact the head of the beer. So we don't want also the head to go down. Yeah.
Right.
So you have to choose it carefully. And even in orange peel, by the way, you get bitter orange peel and sweet orange peel. So the question is, what do you do? I mean, how do you, at the end of the day, you want to express your desire for a good Belgian wit beer. And so you choose all of these little combinations. When do you add this in the process?
So is it after boil or during
So in this case, it is done. Some part of it is done in the boil kettle. Some part of it is done in the whirlpool. So it's In this case, we don't touch it post fermentation. So whatever the goodness that we have is built in. It goes in there. Yeah. Every beer that you drink, made by everybody, will be different. I mean, for example, if I gave your mother the same sort of ingredients to make a dal, and my mother had the same sort of ingredients, the results will be different.
Absolutely.
Because there's something called haath ka kamal, right? So that makes a huge difference, because when you put your spices, when do you add your tadka, it makes a difference. How do you boil it? Some people will boil it particular way.
Every hand is different.
Exactly.
I mean, even if they do the exact recipe, still the taste will be different.
Exactly right.
That's what homemade.
Exactly. So that's why, when they say craft, I think for me, some people even ask me, what does craft beer mean, right? Is it about volume? Is it because you're small that you're craft? And I say, well, it's a mixture of everything, which is one part of it we just talked about, which is the handcraftedness of the beer. And then you have things like what variety do you have? Yes, volumes. If you go beyond a certain volume, the perception is that, oh my God, you're no longer craft. It doesn't have to be that. Some people even define it as, are the owners running the business on a day-to-day basis? Do they have 51% control of the company, as an example? So all of these factors, provenance, which is areas that a particular beer is made in, also plays a role. So the thing is this, I think, to me, the more the people that get into craft beer, the better it is. By the way, this word microbrewery or brew pub, let's assume just for 1 minute that Geist was the only brewery that was doing this. How in God's name can we educate 13 million people about craft beer?
Absolutely.
Now 68 or 69 now are 69.
I thought 52 was the last.
No, it's 69
Bangalore?
as of in Bangalore. Okay, there are 69 people now working on educating the customer. Okay, but it's a process. It's going to take time. But I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that, given the fact that Indians are smart people and all of the other things that we discussed earlier, we will be a force in the craft beer space in the years to come. 100%.
I know you worked with Intel. Am I right? I think. Yeah. So you were an engineer, if I'm. Yes. How did an electrical engineer start brewing?
So when I went for my master's to Virginia Tech, the computer science department there was sponsored by Intel. They were working on this amazing technology called DVI. And so when I got the chance, I went to Princeton, New Jersey, which is where this research group was set up.
Sure.
And I asked them, I said, can I come in for an interview? And they were like, yeah, okay, come meet us, whatever. So I wanted a summer job. So I went in there, and then it took 5 hours for of interviews.
Oh.
There were 5 different people who spoke to me for 1 hour each, and later they said, okay, you're hired. And I got a summer job at Intel. And then I got to work with these amazing engineers, and our entire job was, how do you bring audio and video into the PC, right? And somewhere along the way, and this is why I believe, luck plays such an important part, despite, I think talent is there, but I think people underestimate luck. So what happened to me was, at the time that I started working, all of the work that we were doing was, we would take video and we would compress it, and then we'd play it back. So it's called non-real-time video. And so our CEO at that time, Andy Grove, he said, I want something real time. Okay, I don't want all this,
Compression.
this compressed, decompressed, non-real time video. Show me something real time. So me and another guy called Peter, so the two of us were given the job to create Intel's first video conferencing system.
Oh,
So it's kind of ironical.
Which year was it?
It's in 1991. So I remember we were working on a 386 SX, okay, and we had 6 boards inside the PC, and we actually created Intel's first video conferencing system. I remember at 2 o'clock in the morning seeing the first frame of video show up on the computer. I was like ridiculously excited. And so that project that I worked on became a $600 million investment for Intel. And so I hadn't even finished my master's, and they said, we're hiring you full time. So I said, okay. And I was $95 in my bank account. I said, I desperately need the money, so I'm going to go. So I got transferred from Princeton, New Jersey to Portland, Oregon to be part of a division for Intel. And when I was working with these group of amazing engineers, in Oregon, you're allowed to home brew. Okay, so you can brew 30 liters a month without any license as long as you don't sell it. And it's surprising to say this now because Intel is now 35% Indian, but in that time I was the only Indian guy in my group, and I was not married, and I wanted to find a way to bond with the guys, right? And so I got into home brewing, and I just got completely addicted.
So that's how, I guess,
yeah, so I built this brewery in my garage, and you add all these bells and whistles thinking, oh, I'm so cool and stuff. None of it actually works, by the way, but we did it because it was a cool thing to do, and you got into brewing, and I just got hooked. I don't know, I must have brewed maybe 200 batches of beer in my garage. And then I have this little principle that says, you've got to have at least 2 people say what you're doing is crazy, okay? And so 2 people said it, and I said, okay, I'm definitely going back to India and doing it now.
Wow.
So I left Intel in 2003. I took a year's leave of absence, and then came back here. And for the first 5 years of my life, I was busy with my parents' auto components company, because they had a company that had, my dad said, if you're not going to take it over, I'm going to sell it. So I took it over, grew it, sold it to an Italian company, and then focused on this pretty much full time from 2008, 2009 onwards. Serendipity is how life takes you, right? So. Okay, so this is the lager. Here, we are trying to showcase a couple of things. One is the malt. So this beer is typically made during Oktoberfest. And this is a beer that is characterized by a nice malty, biscuity backbone. The color can be this, which is kind of golden brown, sometimes slightly darker, sometimes slightly less dark. But this characterizes, so we are showcasing the malt and also showcasing the skill of the brewer. So brewing a lager, I define it as brewing naked, because you honestly have no place to hide, right? Okay. Whereas if you have a lot of dry hopping in an IPA, for example, you can cover up some of your mistakes. Yeah. And so this, there's no place to hide. Okay. So it should be clean drinking, refreshing, malty backbone. So yeah. No real aromas except that lagery kind of yeasty aroma that you get.
I think the Witty it had a good aroma,
It has a bit hoppy afternote.
So it definitely has a little bit of a hop kick. That is based on the brewer's kind of mindset in terms of how hoppy do you want to make it and what kind of a aftertaste do you want in your mouth. So
you don't expect a non-hoppy lager in a craft.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's the other thing, which is if you make it too similar, exactly. If you make it too similar to a big beer, then people are going to say, "What's craft about this?" So it's a little bit of a challenge in terms of how do you make this craft at the same time make a nice lager that is not compared to a big beer.
As you said, it's probably that bready taste.
You get that malty, bready note. And that's actually lager, exactly. That's a classic German lager. Yeah. In Germany, they actually even call this a Matzen, which is brewed primarily for Oktoberfest.
Started in 2005, 2000.
So guys, was registered in February 2006. Okay. And then we brewed a bunch of batches, called friends over. Basically, our friends were our guinea pigs, right? So we experimented on them.
Lucky guinea pigs.
Yeah. Right, I know.
And so Nandan Nelikani was one of them.
Oh.
And he actually was so impressed with the beers. He said, "You've got to come and have these beers at my 50th birthday party," which is what we did. And so And then I met Kiran Mazumdar there, and she basically told me, she says, you know, your yeast is underperforming, and I can help you, and you know, that kind of stuff. So it was just amazing to see a lot of people interested in the craft. And so what we did was we got these recipes honed in, and we realized at that time 2-3 kind of cardinal principles. One was that Indians don't like very bitter beer. Wheat is going to work,
Yeah.
and people like a little bit more of a rounder feel. They didn't want very. They wanted something interesting. They wanted new flavors, new tastes, but not too surprising. Right. So we took these recipes, and by the way, we went. We're the first company to introduce wheat beer in India, which today forms between 60 and 70% of all microbreweries. So little known fact. So we took our recipes, went abroad because we couldn't get a license to manufacture here. Went abroad, found a brewer in Belgium, and we made our beers and we brought it back.
Contract brewing.
Oh.
Yeah, and I call it India's first reverse outsourcing model because everybody's used to outsourcing, but nobody has reversed outsourced before. So
Right.
that's how it happened.